And then you realize that after they have gotten back to you, someone just couldn't sustain that. In other words, they didn't follow up. If it's ever happened to you, I just want to know, all right? So within your chat, if you've ever ordered and someone responded to you on WhatsApp, for instance, the person just couldn't get back to you after the first or maybe even the second, and that was just it. And that was such a bore for us, okay? Such a bore, such a problem, because we realized that why would somebody spend so much money, right, to run adverts, and they can't sustain the follow-up? Of course, my colleagues and I try to justify it from our own experience that when you have too much influx of leads, you might not have the time to follow through. However, I got very pissed off because imagine it's not my ad, it's not our ad, it's not your ad, it's somebody else's. But the pain is, you're an entrepreneur. One of the things you want to do is to maximize, every investment you make. And for, in this case, advertising, you want to maximize that, okay? And if someone isn't doing their job, properly, then you want to find out why. Is it a systemic problem? Is it a cultural problem? And I placed a request on several products like that in the last couple of years, having been into e-commerce, and I realized that it was a general problem. So that is why, permit me to take you on a journey today, right? On a journey very briefly, and I trust that this will be useful to you in the next couple of minutes. Why leads don't become sales, right? Why they don't become sales. Between the click, the conversation, right? The click from the landing page or from the advert itself on any social media handle, right? And what happens in between there and when you eventually make money. That's what we call the close. My biggest strength as a salesperson is closing. All right. That is why I need to, this for those of us who have been in the game for a while, you've done anything around digital marketing, you know that what I am sharing at this point is most likely something that is too big for any one human being to sort out, realistically. You agree with me on that? That's why, as a roundup today, I'm going to be showing you that there is more to this, and I have curated, by the grace of God, my team and I have curated a very amazing response to what we have for the entire discussion, okay? And so, yeah, that's one of the things I love to say. Selling is the discipline of helping a customer move from interest to decision without losing trust. Yes, it's a big deal for me. The first time I had a sales presentation at Vitamalt, they are not in existence anymore. They were in Agbara in Ogun State, the Agbara Industrial Estate. One of the things I remember saying, I was just getting into the training space, and I was working with a particular board right there. And during that presentation that morning, I said that I found out that the most important people in the world are salespeople. And I said, for those of us who are believers, you realize that, and even if you're a Muslim, you realize that your prophet came into the world, and in my own case, my Christ came into the world, and he had to sell a kingdom. And not only did he just sell it to those who listen then, he sold it to those who will come thousands of years later by capturing the details and the procedures that was required to connect with such a kingdom, with such a value, with such, an essence, with such beauty. All right. And so check the world. Politicians, great salespeople. All right. The wealthiest men in the world are not just producing stuff; they are selling them. All right. The biggest IPO in our world, $1 trillion. Who would have thought that a company would be evaluated at $1 trillion in a lifetime? No, yeah, the possibilities are there, but to see it happening right now, that's because of not just production, but because of sales. Sales is at the base of the greatest things on the earth. Some of the best inventors are not the best. Are not. Sorry, I say some of the greatest people who are wealthy are not the best inventors. All right, so you can be a great inventor and not be able to sell that thing. You might have great product, great services. You see certain things people are doing online, and you tell yourself, I've said that to myself over and over. I said, we can do better than that. But that's not the issue. The issue is that that guy who can do as good as you are is selling much better than you are. So it is who people see, it is the value people see that they connect to. It's not about who can. That's why even when you're an author, they don't call you great writer. It is best-selling author people celebrate. All right? Even if a movie is created, no matter how good it is, if you don't upload it to YouTube, you don't upload it to Netflix, nobody sees it, then that's up to you. So it's sales that converts to revenue at the end of the day that people are. And that's why I am very, very persuaded in my heart that this is timely. All right? Very, very timely. Like I said, I've watched Good Leads Die. I gave that earlier. All right. If you like me, again, I'm saying, and you have seen responses to a request for a product that you wanted to buy from maybe Instagram or from Facebook, for instance, and they responded once and never responded. You might not feel bad until you are an advertiser that puts money into advertising. If you know the cost of that click, that click, that cost per click, if you know what it costs, you know exactly why I feel very, and for anyone who pays, and this is the generation of solo entrepreneurs, so you might not be bothered about paying too many salaries. But if you pay salaries, you're bothered about overhead, you're bothered about cost of operation. This minute cost that looks like just one click, when you multiply that over a period of time, you realize that it is a serious drainer, right? Ultimately. Okay. So this is one of the reasons why we're having this conversation, to see how we can literally maximize what it is that we're offering and we're giving out. Okay. We're giving out. By the way, just in case I forgot to introduce myself, my name is Rume Daniels. I represent a few things to different people. I represent clergy to some people, but in the corporate world, I represent, an outstanding, award-winning training consultant that has literally done this for 2 decades and counting. And when I say this, I mean what I am doing with you now, speaking to people from the depth of my heart with the principles that can help improve them and improve organizations. On this call, I can trust without a shadow of a doubt that there are loads of people who have searched through our trainings, whether in their companies or as individuals that have signed up to trainings virtually or physically over a decade. All right. I've known some people on this call, I can see them. I've known some of them for close to 15 years, and they can attest to the fact that what we do, what I bring, what we represent is consistent with who we say we are. And we're not just kidding. With regards to why this is holding, all right, sales, for instance, it's not something I get to talk about very much, but I've had this for years to entrepreneurs, startup entrepreneurs, right from my undergraduate days when I ran my first hub, even on campus. But so those who have followed me consistently know that I'm very passionate about helping organizations succeed, and that's why we've registered and grown organizations that do this. I had to say this because there's a part of the conversations that I'll be having right about now that is tied to the very, very reason why this is happening. So, um, after a few years of coming into the corporate space and begin to train, I realized that one of the pain points of organizations is how to, literally, um, I'll say maximize profit, right? Of course, that's what everybody's in business for. However, specifically around sales, costs of advertising, having to, get customers, that's a huge pain point for a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses. And so to that end, it became quite a demand, quite a need that we had to fit in. Now, to get more practical experience, and I have done that over time. Sales, all right, business development. It's been a thing for me. I've done that consistently. If you take a little read into my bio on LinkedIn, you might see some of those things I have been involved with. But specifically, one of the things missing on my bio is my place at Hypertrade, an organization that I did a bit of um, HR, sales, business development with. All right. And I was able to lead an organization at that level for close to 2 years of 140 plus individuals who were in sales, strictly sales. And our mode of sales is this model I'm talking about now. All right. Um, Digital marketing, e-commerce at its best, at its peak. All right. Selling multiple products around the country. So you know what it is like to say if you order for a product today, if your order landed in our mail today, all right, or landed in our WhatsApp today, you can get that delivery done today as long as a delivery agent is within your reach. All right. We call them delivery agents at the time. And I say this because it was such a huge operation that even if you bought a product by 5 p.m., we are sure that you could get it before 6 p.m. That's how detailed the operation had gone. And I saw firsthand what it was to deal with this. And also, a dimension of that product was a lot into a niche that was very challenging on Facebook. So at that time, there were Facebook bans happening. Anybody who has been there understands that Facebook has subsided now, but there was a time in its operations when there were always bans. You could run an advert now, and in the next 1 hour, Facebook would place a ban. The restrictions were very stringent at that time. That is the moment I'm talking about when it was to create succor, all right, to create strength within a team that was already bombarded with so much blocks. You can imagine that within a given month, you could have as much as 10, 14, 15, sometimes 20 Facebook accounts. And when you didn't have any more, you could even have to start buying or looking for. Yes, that's the operations that I was involved in. Right. So a number of people who are currently advertising on Facebook now may not have experienced that time. So I'm coming from a place where the most difficult time to operate in e-commerce and the niche I operated in was where I learned some of the things I'm speaking to you about, and I've gone on to use it for so many clients since then. So I took a moment just to show some bit of traction. I can see one of my colleagues back then on the call. It was one of our yeah. His name is Taurid. Taurid. I give you a shout out. I can see you. I can see you very very well. And now I know he's taken what he learned from our operations then. He's brought it into real estate. All right. Tarid, I don't mind if you can unmute and just give us a shout out, please, Tarid. Mr. Tarid. Or is it not your Tarid? Because I know that Tarid. Please unmute. Okay. Maybe you're aware you can't respond, but it's good to see you. But if you can, before we finish, I'd like you to speak to us. So whether you are selling real estate, you're selling cars, clothes, shoes, um, services, insurance, whatever thing you're selling right now, and you're doing a little bit of, or you're currently selling, and you have not begun to leverage digital marketing. Thank you for joining us this morning. This is huge for us, all of us. All right. Um, Let me quickly run through this. All right. So like I stated earlier, closing was my passion, my biggest passion. Okay. And I realized that you cannot just close your way out of a broken funnel. And that's by that we mean that if you have if you have um, if you have run an ad that is very terrible, right? And all of a sudden you want to correct what you have done from a broken funnel, it might take more energy. It's just like saying that you lay a house, a story two, three-story building, and the foundation is faulty. Once the crack happens at the foundation, there's nothing you can do. You might have to bring the whole house down. And for many people, that is usually the case. So in our consulting, in our practice, every day, we find out that when we step in and we do a bit of diagnosis for people who say, we're getting leads, but these leads are not converting. What is the problem? One of the things we find out is that the landing page might be faulty. Even sometimes we find out that um, it might just be the creatives. All right, we've seen where the videos were we just looking at the videos already, or the what do you call it now, or the flyer, or even the copy. You could tell this was not going to convert. Okay, you could tell this was not going to convert. So that was that. So sales conversion is a chain, right? You have the offer, of course, that advertising right at the beginning, what people see. If that is a problem, closing is already a problem. If your offer is not making sense, or is making sense yet it's not compelling enough, that is a problem. Now, the landing page is another thing. But don't forget that the advert, the offer, the landing page itself, all right, those things people see, there's still the part of targeting. Thank God we now have AI, automated targeting, and all of that, but it does not mean, and I want to say this very, very carefully, for many of us, we might not be able to yet pay for those automated AI agents that will do this targeting for us. So for some of us, we still have those people doing it for us. Yeah. I know that in the next couple of months, and we're going to have this conversation in depth, but I'm just mentioning that in a short while, we would have dealt with a bit of this, um, you know, in terms of how we target. Because I've seen ads where the targeting was poorly done, whether it was on Instagram or Facebook. Once the targeting was poorly done, you lose out on the ability to draw the right people, the right people, the right people, the right people. You lose that ability to draw the right people to your landing page. Once the wrong people come to your WhatsApp or your landing page, you will have problems closing. All right. Even if you have a solid follow-up system, you will have problems. And then this part of response is so crucial. It's so crucial. It's so crucial. Some people do not know that the ability to close, all right? You can see how all of them are connected. And why is this response there? If you keep a response for 24 hours, I can assure you, all right, that somebody else will pick up that person. In a large marketing force like ours, all right, where I'm just going to give you a practical example of what I mean, where you had several people running adverts for the same product, right? We've had situations where someone closed out a day, and our CRM, our platform was such that you could take the person's order once you have closed out the arrangement, and you want to put it in the general place where people can see, so that the delivery agent in maybe Uyo or in Kaduna can make a delivery for someone, right? Immediately, once you have closed that arrangement. The address, the time, everything, the date of delivery, the address, once you are putting it into that general portal, somebody who has received that order before has seen it. I've seen, and I was dealing with this because, like I said, I wasn't just in the middle of selling. I was in the middle of literally managing the sales team, the entire sales team. So I was always closing out issues where we had to check timelines of when the offer arrived. So same situations where somebody's offer, a landing page or WhatsApp received a request for this product at say 11 a.m. in the morning on the 6th, which was yesterday. And about 2 hours later, they've gone to make that same offer to someone. Because in 2 hours, that's about 1 p.m., they were waiting for someone to respond, but they didn't get somebody, and they needed that product. So instead of waiting, they saw that this ad was available somewhere else. This product was available somewhere else on another person's, funnel, and they clicked on it. In fact, I've had to close out issues where someone requested for that product almost at the same time, 3 different times. And then the person was able to pick the phone up quickly and call that person first, was the one that went through. And then it now looked like, oh, you told my person. So we had to resolve that issue. Prompt response, prompt response, prompt response. How many times have I had to click on a funnel on an advert? And it took someone 5 hours. I used to check out on those things. Myself and we used to just troubleshoot. Like sometimes we're going window shopping. It's not as if we wanted to buy. It's not as if I wanted to buy real estate at that time. I just troubleshooting. And I learned a lot. So what am I trying to say? Selling is huge. That's what I'm driving at. Selling is huge. It's everything. Imagine what you call the lifeblood of a business. That's what sales is. That's what selling is. It's an art. It's a science. It's everything. I don't know how to explain beyond what I'm saying. And then to now give it the kind of lack of diligence, the lack of commitment, the lack of sincerity, the lack of focus, the lack of appetite, hunger, passion for it is crazy. And that's why I said, for me, it was a huge burden. And I'm almost done with a little bit of very small book and manual in any sense that will be around closing, just closing. I'm not talking about the entire funnel, just closing, right? My colleagues know there are two of us who, and I'm having one of them join us for a further conversation sometime next week. But this person is crazy. He leaves the entire 9 yards from the beginning to the end. But this is the law. Don't slide into my DM. If you do, I will close you. Don't slide into my WhatsApp. If you do, I will follow up with you until you tell me to stop. And even after telling me to stop, by that time it's too late. I learned this the hard way, that every single dollar, every single naira, every single penny spent on advertising should count. And in sincerity, it is not everything that closes immediately. However, because of that kind of lifestyle and understanding, I realized that certain arrangements for orders that were made in the month of January, some of them that had become relationships that had cooked and warmed up based on relationships, started making referrals to people much later. They became ambassadors, they became mouthpieces. And that's the power of the follow-up, right? That's what we're talking about, trust. Know, like, trust. Okay? They know you, they like you, eventually they trust you and continue to do business with you. Okay? So a weak lead is often created long before the salesperson says hello. All right? But we would love to close that gap. So for some of us, we might have seen two different flyers leading to this same event. Yes. One of them had to do with the funnel, what you do at the front end, what people see, all right, from the videos, the creatives, to your landing page, to the click, all right? So what people see from the front to the landing page to the click is what one flyer was about. Now, from that click to the point where someone sells, all right, that's the back end. That is where you have the customer experience. That's where you have follow-up. That in itself is another journey. And both of them find its expression in this very presentation at this moment. All right, so let me see how much we can quickly do and bring this to a close, right? So speed changes the economics of a lead. Speed changes the economics of a lead. All right, 21 times higher odds of qualification when response happens within 5 minutes rather than 30 minutes. That's what I was explaining earlier. 7 times more likely to qualify a lead when contact happens within the first hour. All right. So you see, it even gets slower. But 23% of audited companies never responded to the web generated test lead. Can you imagine that? Just imagine that. It's exactly what I'm asking myself. Why put the money into it when you are not ready? Why would you be joking with something as sensitive as sales? Why? I don't care how good your product is. And in fact, that's one of the things I told myself. For those of us who have followed me from my undergraduate days in the last 2 decades of my journey, you know very well I've done stuff. And out there right now, there's so many voices. One day I woke up. This thing that you are saying you don't want to do, you don't want to put yourself in front. Now there are a lot of things that keep coming. Some of the things that I'm saying, no, I could do better than that. I could be. So it doesn't matter how good you are. If people can see, then that's the end. Your product will not go anywhere. And so the implication is simple. Every delay gives doubt, distraction, and of course, the competitors more room to take your clients or your customers. I've already talked about that already. There is no way you don't understand that, and I'm sure a lot of us already have experienced it in our own journeys as well. Okay, a lead is not merely a name or a phone number; it is a paid opportunity. Money created the click. That's what advertising did. Messaging created the enquiry. That's what your landing page did. And your test copy, your ad copy, all right, your sales copy, that's what it did. The system must then protect the opportunity until it becomes revenue in the account. And that's what a system does. I'm telling you, I've lived this. I know this like if you wake me in the middle of the night, I know this at the back of my fingertips. I understand it. And even so, I'm excited that we have more senior colleagues of mine who ready to even give more. So media spend or media buying, team time, customer attention, and of course, brand trust is the name of this whole game. All right. So 5 places I see leads wasted. Wrong people. So most businesses do not have traffic problems alone. They have a leakage problem. Okay, the wrong people. The advert attracts curiosity, not buyers. We've talked about this. All right, there's nothing wrong with people coming, but if it is the people who cannot pay, why should I be attracting those people? If out of 100 leads you get in a, let me just say a week, in 1 week, if you get 100 leads, out of those 100, two pay, it means that there's a problem. And if that becomes something you have seen for a month, all right, it's not that, okay, 20 paid this week, then 2 paid next week, then 35 paid the third week of the month, then 10 paid. You see that there's a rise in fall. But if it's just a almost like a single line that is showing up there, and I'm getting out of 100 leads, I'm getting 1 or 2 sales, all right, then that's a real problem. That's a huge problem. So if within a month you've gotten 20, I mean, let me just say 2,000 people click on your, all right, on your ad, and that followed through, filled your form, and out of those 2,000 people, it has not even translated into 0.5. So in other words, you're not even sold up to 20 people or up to 10 people in those, then that's a problem. That's a huge problem right there. So the weak offer, slow response, no nurture, that's follow up, right? And then of course, no closing. That's me there. You see that nurture, that closing, nurture, closing. Um, I know a person who, in nurturing, has made more. In fact, he taught me, right? And I dare say this. He taught me that in nurturing, almost all of the money you will make in the next 6 months to 1 year is in nurturing. So he's even helped me to see that even the leads that I feel are wrong people, I will convert them eventually. I didn't know that, and I'm grateful for the experience under this mentor, right? Very, very grateful. So I look forward to introducing him to you too. The African buyer often needs more than information, right? You could get I'm interested. Okay. So trust must first be built before agency can produce payments. And there are different products where this even varies much more. If you are selling real estate, I can tell you there are a few people on real estate on this call I know, at least that I know personally. And that is a space I eventually entered into. And I think it's one of the most difficult things in the world to sell. And that's real estate because of how sensitive it is. People are parting hard-earned money. It's a huge one. But let's leave there. Let's even go to as simple as offering a training service or putting out an advert for your school. It's almost new season for schools, and adverts will be going out right now. All right. How do you do that? What do you do? Okay. So whether it's a service, a product, you make shoes, you make beads, you are into cosmetic, or even you're even marketing a church, for instance. All right. What do you? So these are huge, huge, huge things, huge, huge things. Um, People need answers, and I can say this very, very, very quickly. One of the reasons, for instance, why I'm having this webinar with you is because really before we made up the mind to have this webinar, there was already a product, and certain people were already ready to pay for that product. All right, but I just said, and no, let me fill the room much more. The time that we would have to have a training for 5, 10 people, we could have 20, 30 people. And that was interestingly one of the reasons. He said, no, this thing that I want to present to just a few people paying clients, let's open it up. But to open it up, all right, we know very, very well that some people say, what are they even talking about? So in trying to get people much more interested, you want to give, better quality information as to why someone should even connect with a product or service that you have to offer. That's why many times you can't push people away. You have to do the work. All right. Let me quickly. I have 2 case studies. Let me just share them with you very quickly. All right. Um, Harvard Business Review showed how leads die after inquiry. The study audited how real companies responded to web generated leads. Okay. Now look at this. 2,241 companies tested with web generated inquiries. So, when a case study like this comes from Harvard Business Review, you can trust it. This was not Nigerian generated. 42 hours average response time among companies that responded within 30 days. Okay, that's crazy. 23% never responded at all. They just left the inquiries. Don't tell me you have not experienced this before. Yeah, it's except the companies that are currently now automating it. Many people, many organizations that just thought, oh, our customer care person would do it. They didn't do it. They didn't do. Okay, let me pause a little. Sorry, just a quick digression. And I don't know if they're on the call, so I will not call their name. A particular client of mine, and I do this a lot with many clients, many clients. I just window shop. I go as a what do you call them now? Anyway, if I remember the name. So I just go test run the system. I make a call and say I want to buy the product. And I did this to a particular client. Did this, in fact, in a span of 3 months, I've done it to about 3 different clients. And the thing was almost the same. Let me give you an answer that I got. Person said, I placed a query for shipping a product abroad, right? I said, please, let me get your your details and all of that. And it took me another 2 hours before I called back. I called back. I said, do you remember I called 2 hours ago? He said, oh, yes. Sorry, I've been busy, sir. And I told the person, I said, this is how you destroy people's businesses. I said, imagine now that within the last 2 hours, this same thing I asked you, I've actually asked another company. Do you think I will still do business with you? The person said no. I said, I need you to personally learn from this. Okay. I'll get back to you. And guess what? In 2-3 minutes, that same thing I waited 2 hours to call back for, the person sent it to my WhatsApp immediately because now they had understanding. And that's one of the pains I have. A lot of people just say, oh, we have customer care, but they don't even train them. And maybe when they do, they don't even understand the implication of them not responding. You will destroy this company and your salary will not be paid again. That's what I told the person. Whether I was out of fear or understanding, I don't know. But the person responded to me within 2 minutes. That was better than waiting for 2 hours to now get back to you. This is not the first time that happened. So to say this was happening in Nigeria, and Harvard Business Review is saying that they did this to over 2,000 companies in the US. What will happen if it was done in Nigeria? Do you think the never responded will be 23%? Of course, your guess is as good as mine, right? Okay, so the second case study. I had to improve conversation by fixing visibility, all right? The issue was more, it was not more noise, rather. It was a more disciplined revenue system, special risk, okay? Before, sales, servicing, claims, data were not unified enough for strong visibility, okay? So that data was scattered everywhere around the company. It was not on a single platform. Intervention, lead nurturing, funnel management, and service interactions became more connected after they had fixed this problem, all right? And then the outcome, 60% in increase of sales. So the conversion ratio increased by 60% once they were able to fix this. So the lesson here was that leads are visible, owned and managed through a process. Conversion improves, all right? So that's the thing. When those leads are visible, and when they are owned, and when they are managed through a process, so we are not leaving it to chance. In other words, a system approach to dealing with what we have attracted by advertising. Once it is into, and that is what this is about. How do we build that system? What do we do? Okay. The conversion operating system that I believe in, that I personally believe in. Okay. This is it. Simple enough to run, disciplined enough to protect revenue, right? Attract people, or your audience, or your clients, or your market. Okay. Clarify. Share with them what you want to talk about or what you want to sell. All right. Then respond fast. Own this thing. So those who want to do, now let me just mention, if you run digital marketing as a way of boosting your business, or you run an advert as a way of reaching, and you have connected your personal WhatsApp line, or you have a business line that you will carry to your office. In other words, you are running a side gig and you're running an advert for that. And your plan is that during break time, you will take the thing out and start responding. No. This system will not work for you. Okay? And we're going to tell you, let me not even wait. Hire someone, even if it's a family member. Give them that phone, right? Of course, let them close. Your job is to ensure that they close, and there are templates for that. When somebody places an inquiry, there's an auto response there. However, beyond auto responses, all right, now these days, some auto responses are very long, such that somebody who is busy has immediately responded to an inquiry without even being there. So that's a beautiful one. That's a beautiful one. However, there is also some things to do, like somebody actually making a phone call because you are willing to close. What the WhatsApp response did was good, but is that enough to close? No. So you want to also train the person to immediately say, thank you, we received this and that. How do we help you? Whether the person picks or not, because this is Nigeria, e-commerce can be very brutal. All right. Some people, if you understand what I'm saying, this is very brutal. Some people are rude. Some people tell you, someone will just apply to buy your product now and fill your form, calls back and says, sorry, I can't talk to you now. And that's even fine. When you call them again, they say, don't worry. Some people say, I beg, which kind of rubbish is this? You are not ready for sales. So if you don't know how to deal with rejection, you are not ready for sales. You are not ready for sales. So clear decision, and that's where structured nurturing is very, very important. All right. So before I spend more on advertising, I ask 5 questions. Are we attracting people with with a real problem, right? With a real problem. Is the offer clear? Is it credible? All right. In other words, does it show we have the capacity and competence to deliver the value we say we can? And how urgent is it? All right. There's a principle for that. Some of us already understand what I'm talking about. Okay. But how quickly does a human respond? I just talked about that. What happens after that first conversation? All right. What happens after that first conversation? So you see, closing is serious work. That's why it is what I can tell you that right now, as I speak to you, at least I know of nothing less than 40 human beings that are directly connected to me and that I know that will do this thing. All right, that I know personally. Okay, so who owns the lead until this payment? This is very critical. That's someone who's going to take responsibility for this whole process, for this nurturing until delivery is done. The main training that we have after now, of course, is much deeper than this. All right, it's going to move you from the inside to implementation. Okay, very, very detailed. I know that we have just one person on joining me in the upper week, but truth is, there's another protege this time. So I have a mentor and a protege joining. So there's Coach Ola, who is a protege. Of course, I've worked with him for over 5 years. Amazing, amazing guy. So when you want to really clarify certain things, he's going to deal with all of that. Funnel audit, find the leaks, all right? Offer clarity. Amazing. When it comes to scripting, we're going to get you into what we need to do, all right? In that case, follow-up cadence, very, very key, very key. Before saying anything else, I mentioned how Facebook was frustrating the ads of, the entire advertising team back then, shutting down adverts very crazily. In the middle of that, after speaking to, team members across the country, Warri, Benin, Uyo, Calabar, Kaduna, just speaking to them. A bulk of them were in Ibadan, Lagos, Kwara, and so on and so forth. Port Harcourt, a massive community in Port Harcourt and also in Igua. As for delivery agents, every single state in Nigeria had at least 2. Every major city in this country had 1. So you just name it. Whether it was Kafanchan, whether it was Uyo, I just think if you ordered for a product in Meduguri, like I said, you will get it that same day. That's how wide and how big that was. However, the most discouraging part was, and we had a team that was way into quality control, that was looking at the quality of people's ads. We're doing a lot of, window shopping, just visiting sites at random, checking people's creatives at random, going around and just scrolling around as if you were a bot. Then there was not, we didn't even have the AI bots to do what we're doing now, but we're just doing it on our own. Now, that issue of team morale that was being broken down by virtue of Facebook shutting down adverts, that was the biggest pain point at the point. I went into my home one day, sat down, and developed a product. One of the most life-changing products that team ever experienced. It was a weekend like this. By Sunday, I called on my 2 senior colleagues, shared it with them. Amazing. I mean, the 2 partners rather, shared it with them, and knew this was going to make a huge difference. All right. That is not part of this training right now. I can assure you that on day 2 of our training in the next week, we're going to have that also shared with us, because that closing framework that plugin was part of that framework. Once we deployed that training model, it made a huge, huge difference. Anyone on the call who remembers that might just even be able to connect with what I'm saying right now. And then, yes, we will be able to help you with some simple customer relationship management tools eventually, post training, once that is done. So in the coming week, I will be having Mr. Biodun Udo. Amazing. We said over 15 years, but his e-commerce actually started with drop shipping from China. And he's been on this journey for close to 20 years. All right. Amazing. This is literally what has built his houses, created his trips abroad, created the wealth that we know around him today. Amazing man. But very quiet, very humble, but deep in this aspect of the work. Now, please, I want to plead with you. If you want further details of this training when we're done, you will need to chat that number. So if you're on the screen writing right now, simply chat the workstation. You're going to see the workstation when you chat it on. So some of us might have got the link for today's meeting through that number already. So please chat that number. Let someone respond to you on the other side and give you details. We're very aware that some people might say, okay, we want to bring a few more people. If I'm bringing more than 2 people, can you have me signed up and all of that? Yes. However, all right, before I wrap up in the next 2-3 minutes, I want you to see this. Okay, the From Leads to Revenue workshop, all right, which is a 2-day training workshop, more detailed than what we're having now, more interactive than what we're having now, because we can't have that now. I need to let people go, okay, and more post-event relevant guidance after it's done, all right? If there's anything we've learned, everyone who is on this call who's ever been involved with sales, you know very well that sales costs you something. Okay. Right now, in my journey so far, in over 2 decades of training, I realized that the organizations that pay, the individuals that pay for product or service or learning, literally get more value from it. So that's why we cannot get to this end and say, oh, come and attend it for free. So what that means is, yeah, we know you might not be able to be on this call next week. Don't worry. All right. Don't worry. But please, I want to plead with you. If you know anybody who should be on this training tomorrow, please not next week, kindly chat me up as well. I plead with you. This is not a time to begin to say, hey, Rumi, don't worry, since I can't attend, no problem. All right. I understand the power of relationships. All right. The more you make it happen for others, the more God makes it happen for you. Interestingly, not even just God, the more that relationship you are building makes more sense to you. All right. So that is why I need you to do this with us, right? Pierre and I will do this along with Coach Ola as well, who's not on the flyer, by the way. So, funnel clarity, better lead quality. My God. All right. WhatsApp conversation scripts. This is Mr. Biodun's forte. You see that your WhatsApp is an engine of its own. It's a crazy engine of its own. It's not, it's a business tool on its own. Good. And then, of course, follow-up cadence, we have scripted for that as well. Okay. And very, very important, a simple system. I want you to take note of that one. System that keeps warm leads alive until decision to buy is made. That is something you would get. Proven, tested, proven, tested, proven, tested. So a closing structure, all right? And then, of course, the revenue focus. It has to earn the money at the end of the day. That is it. So believe me when I say this, this is assets way back when I was, getting into that space. I was attending courses way back that were way expensive than what we're offering. In fact, once we began to make the offering ready, Coach Ola recommended, for instance, that it shouldn't be less than 65K. And I said to the team, I said, please, let's have this first one, because this is powered by 9 years now. Let's have it open to as many people that can get it. So yes, beginning from this afternoon, you might see this ad running again somewhere else. But for everyone who is on this call, we've made it. And that's why we said within a 48-hour period. And so within today and tomorrow, right, by midnight Saturday, the 35,000 naira offer is off the table. So by Sunday till when we have the training, we really want to go back to that 50K. What that means is this: someone who is willing to pay that money and sit in class is literally ready to move the needle by action and not just what. So this is not, please come and, no, please don't chat with the office, with that number if you're not ready to sit in the class. Please, we plead with you. And I would like to give attention to those who can. So I know that even as I speak, some people have already begun to make those payments. I know a number of people who will do that before the end of today because they value the kind of knowledge that has not just come to them, but has come to them from us over the years. They've trusted it. They know that what we're saying we can deliver. Now, anything you heard me say, believe me, it is child's play to compare to anything you'll be hearing within the last couple of days. And it's not just what you'll be hearing, but we'll be guiding you through. And like I said, Mr. Biodun Udo, amazing, amazing. You don't want to miss this. So imagine having the experience of three people cumulatively together. That is literally almost 40 years in cumulated experience. You're having it at your disposal within the next couple of days. So we look forward to having you join the class. Thank you so much for your time. Before we go, I'm going to ask you if you have anything to say, and then we can shut down very quickly. Thank you.